Okay, welcome to our Find Your Next Six-Figure Infill Deal call on March 13th, Friday, March 13th. This week, we actually have a couple really cool deals that we'll cover. Before that, we're going to get into some of the details of the call and everything and how our system works. So first off, a little bit of my background. My name is Zach Matson. I'm a builder and developer here in Boise, Idaho. I got started in real estate back in 2013 by buying my first duplex, and I house hacked where I lived in one side and rented out the other. That back then, that one side paid my mortgage and I lived in the other side for free. I did that again in 2015 before getting into flipping full time in 2016. And then in 2019 and 2020, I transitioned into infill development, and that's what I've been doing ever since. And I've been focusing on scaling the last couple of years. So, one of the things I realized last year, at the beginning of the year, is that there was a lot of opportunity on the market that people just number one, most people don't have the first clue about anything about development. And number two, there's just typically a high bar to get into development, and there's not a lot of competition. So I saw a ton of opportunity. I couldn't possibly buy all of the opportunities myself. So I devised a system where we could identify the properties, kind of present it in a way that we could present it to everyday investors where they could take advantage of the huge opportunity that's in infill development as buyers without having to know anything about development. And then we use our team and our systems to get these deals from underwriting and due diligence all the way through completion on the vertical build out. So because of my unique career path, I've kind of had the opportunity to do everything that's involved with all these deals. So everywhere from fixing up existing homes. So a lot of our deals have existing houses on them, so those need to be fixed up. We have experience doing that. We have experience in rentals. We have experience in obviously in infill development, but with entitlements, development, and vertical building. So we have our infill deal list. How this works is that if you are a realtor or an investor, we can give you full-time access to our infill deal list. We just have a couple of things that we ask that you do to get full-time access, and that's on top of our every Friday call here that we do. But in order to get full-time access, if you're a realtor, we just have you attend or watch the replays of our sessions 1 and 2 on infill development. Part 1 just covers kind of our process and what we're doing with this, and then part 2 covers our build construction process, and then part 3 is our Zoom replay, which covers how to analyze or how to look at the list and understand what you're looking at when you get access to it. And then we just have you sign an agreement stating that if you're going to use our strategies that we're suggesting, that you'll introduce us to your buyers early on in the process. And that just ensures that the system goes smoothly and we don't get hit with any surprises and somebody doesn't close on a deal without giving us a chance to help them with the due diligence. In fact, we do most of the due diligence for you. And then part of that as a realtor too, we actually have free marketing campaigns that we provide that you can co-brand with us. One of them is our one-page deal sheet that we send out on every Friday. And that just gives you the high-level breakdown of the deal of the week. And then you can co-brand that and send that out to your client base. Then if you're an investor, you can actually also get full-time access to the deal list as well. We have you watch the same 3 videos as realtors. These are actually tailored for investors. The videos are tailored for realtors. But then we just make sure you have a signed buyer's representative agreement with a sponsoring realtor. And the reason why we do that is because most of these deals have a little bit more going on with them than a traditional home purchase. So we just want to make sure that your realtor kind of understands the process and is familiar with our process so that the deal goes as smoothly as possible. So if you already work with a realtor, you can bring them on. They just have to watch the same training and do the same steps. If you're not working with the realtor yet, we can actually refer you to our handful of realtors that we work with closely on these deals. So right now we have probably 5 or 6 or so realtors that we work closely with that know the ins and outs of our system. And then the last thing that we do is we have you sign an agreement that's just says that if you're going uh, implement our strategy on the identified properties that you're going to use our services. So that's ultimately a big reason why we're doing this, for a lot of reasons, but a big reason is obviously to generate business for our my building and development company. And that gets into, how we get paid. So I'm a developer and builder, so we obviously get paid on the development and building side. We also, just for the cost and time and efforts to set up this list and identifying the properties, and then all the time that goes into the due diligence process, we just have you pay a consulting fee at the time of purchase. And that basically covers our all the efforts and time that goes into the due diligence and putting this system together. So we have about a 19-page due diligence checklist. We actually just revamped this week into a little bit better laid out format. So I don't know how many pages it is now, but it's actually a lot cleaner. So it's probably less pages, but it's about 100 or so steps that we go through. We do about 90% of it or 95% of it. And then the buyer and the realtor have a few things that they have to do with it. We do about 95% of it, and then you actually get to follow along the process. So we give you access to all the files, and you can actually watch as we go through due diligence. When we're done with due diligence, we have a one-page underwriting worksheet that we'll review with you. That's kind of acts as the final go or no go on the development deal. And then on the entitlement side, we just charge an hourly fee for our project management with the entitlements. We still hire out all the professional services like the civil engineering. There's a lot of engineering that goes into the development side of it. So we just manage the process with the different agencies with the city. And we just charge you a flat rate for that based on the hours actually spent managing that. Okay, getting into how our deal offer works and what our guarantee is. So we have a couple different guarantees that we'll get into here, but basically the whole reason why we created this system is that we realized there was a ton of opportunity. And, my complaint, ever since getting into development was that there's just not a lot of information out there on development, and there's a high bar. There's not a lot of knowledge. It's a very closed circuit community where there's just not a lot of people teaching this stuff. And then there's also not a lot of just not a lot of people doing it. So there's a lot less competition, which means there's a lot more potential and more scalability. So we created this system because we realized that individual investors, obviously without knowing anything about development or knowing little about development, are going to be worried about losing money or not knowing the process, or just projects dragging on too long or contractors cutting corners. Then a big one too is just not having any control or visibility into the process. So a lot of investors invest in other people's deals in different ways, whether they're private money lending or doing being part of syndications. So we actually designed this differently where you have full control of the project. So you're not a limited partner, you own the property. And then we just do all the heavy lifting for you. So ultimately, you're making the big decisions. Now we're going to guide that process to be so our goals are going to be in alignment because we want the profitability to be as high as possible. So ultimately, you're making the decisions. We're guiding the process heavily and doing all the heavy lifting. So the core components of this is we're going to offer expert deal underwriting. So we vet, analyze, and underwrite every deal on our list. So we're not just estimating numbers because we've already done all these processes ourselves. We have a pretty intensive checklist on what cost to estimate even before we have plans. And then we also offer negotiation support. So as I mentioned earlier, these infill deals are not the same as buying a regular house. Sometimes you're working in the same parameters of time. Ideally, you have a little bit more time, but sometimes you're working in the same parameters of time, but it's nowhere near the level of just buying a house. Buying a house is actually pretty simple compared to what this is. So we just want to make sure that we guide you and your realtor on how to make the best offer and negotiation so you can get the best deal. And a lot of that has to do with not only price, but due diligence, timelines, and all that fun stuff. the third part of this is step-by-step due diligence. So I mentioned earlier our 19-page due diligence checklist. So we have a very in-depth due diligence process. You can follow along. So we share that file with you. You can follow along with it. We give you a couple things to do during that process. And then so you're basically never left in the dark. So you can see that file, and anything that comes up, every single development deal, there's always something. I wouldn't call them red flags. I'd say there's always, green or orange flags that come up that you just kind of work around and figure out the process. And then the fourth part, so a lot of our deals, not all of them, but a lot of them involve an existing house. So usually it's an existing house that sits on a large lot. And then what we usually try to do is retain that house in some way. And so probably a little bit more than half of them, or around half of them maybe, are turnkey, and you can live in them or rent them out right when you buy them, and then we just split off the lot. But about half of them need some renovation. So we can manage that process as well using our GC license and subcontractors. And then on the entitlement management, that's the fifth part of this. We do the entitlements for you through the agencies and cities. So again, we just manage all the back and forth with all the different government agencies and the professionals. And then we just charge you a flat rate for that. And then on the actual construction side, so we do the horizontal development and the vertical. And so we just manage that process and use our GC license and all of our team to get all that done. So the first step after you have an entitled project is the horizontal development. So we put all in that in all the utilities, roads, sidewalks, streetlights, all that fun stuff. And then the next process after that, you get the plat signed, and then you go vertical on the build. So that's when the actual build happens, is after you've put in all the utilities and everything. A few bonuses that we give to you with this. So we have an infill development guide. So we give that to you for free. That's a free download. If you're on our email list, you've probably already received it. If you're not, we can send that to you. That just kind of covers more in depth kind of our system and processes. And then number two, we're going to give you our due diligence checklist. So as I mentioned before, you're going to have access to that when you have a property under contract. And then at the end of due diligence, we're going to provide you that one-page underwriting worksheet, and then that's going to act as the final go or no-go, and that's what we base our profit guarantee on. And then we also are going to provide you, once we start the entitlement process, we are going to provide you with our entitlement process checklist with the projected timelines, so you can follow along with that process as well and kind of see how we're doing as far as projections. And then number 5 is we're going to give you our construction process and inspection checklist. So that's once we're actually under construction, you'll have that process checklist and what we actually inspect. And then on top of that, once we go vertical, we actually offer on all of our new builds, we do a third-party new home inspection report. And this isn't just a final new home inspection report when the house is finished. We actually do inspections at key phases. So number 1 is at the framing and rough end, so you can see what's behind the walls. Number 2 is at the drywall when that's finished. And then we do the interior and exterior finishes, and then the final inspection. And sometimes that final inspection ends up being 2 reports, because on the final inspection, a lot of times you'll have a few just last minute details that need to get touched up or repaired. So you're going to see at every phase any kind of issues that came up, how they were addressed. Just to make sure that you have a perfect property that you're going to either sell then or turn over to a tenant, or maybe you're going to live in it or whatever. But you can be assured that everything, even behind the walls, is how it should be. And then bonus offer number 7. So we actually started doing this last month now, finally, where we do host a monthly progress call. So this is where we're going to review all of our current projects. So this is our own projects as well as client projects. We're mostly focusing on client projects right now. So we're kind of ramping that up. We have more and more people interested in buying. But yeah, that last Friday of every month after this call, we're going to host that progress call. That'll be open to anybody. So if you have clients that have deals already that they've closed on, or you are a client that's already closed on a deal, you can see the progress on that call. Or if you're just curious about deals and you're curious how the issues that we run into and how we solve problems and how we move projects forward, we cover all that on these calls. And then this is where we get into our guarantees now. So we have two guarantees. One is our entitlements guarantee. And what that is when we underwrite a deal, so like the deal, for example, this week where we're showing it as a 9-unit deal. Now, this isn't fully underwritten, but we have a pretty good idea what we can do. But once we get all the way through underwriting through the due diligence period, if it remains as 9 units, so we're going to guarantee that as 9 units. And then once we get through entitlements, if for some reason we don't get 9, let's say we only get 8, we actually are going to waive our next fee on your next deal or apply it towards the development costs. So whatever our fee was at the beginning, we'll apply that towards your development costs, or if you're buying another deal, we'll waive it. And then on the next deal is actually our profit guarantee. And this is something we spent a lot of time on figuring out how we could really provide confidence, that extra level of confidence for investors to be able to invest in these deals. So we back up all of our deals with an underwriting guarantee. And basically what that is that we guarantee that if the project doesn't meet at least 100% of the projected profit at final underwriting, we're going to refund you until it does. Now that is limited to, so if it's a single or double lot split, that's limited to 50,000 per deal. If it's a subdivision like today, it's 20,000 per house. So like on this house or this project today where it's 9 units, we'll actually guarantee it up to 180,000. So for example, right now it's projected to do 315,000. Let's say at the end of underwriting, we back it up with a $300,000 guarantee. We're going to back that up. So we're going to guarantee that you make 300,000. And if it falls short of that, if it falls short by 50,000, we refund you 50,000, all the way up to $180,000 refund. So essentially your 300,000 is protected for up to $180,000 shortage of our underwriting. Now, the other thing I'll mention with all this too is because we're guaranteeing this, we're going into every single deal super conservatively. So we're conservative on the resales, we're conservative on the costs, we're conservative on the timelines. So our whole goal is to underpromise and overdeliver. And if we don't do that, we have skin in the game as well, where we're not making our profits unless you are. Okay. Now that I've covered all that, does anybody have any questions before I hop into the deals here? All right, I'm going to share my screen. I'm actually going to cover the one-page sheets that we have for this week. Then we'll go into the actual spreadsheet. But this is an example of the one pager that we send out. So we send this out every Friday, usually right around noon. So this is our pro forma snapshot. It tells you what neighborhood it's in, the size of the lot, how it's zoned, what the highest and best use is, and then some of the target investor profile information that might suit it, or who might suit this property. So if you are a realtor and you have clients that fit these, or if you're an investor, you're like, hey, that's me. This sounds like a good deal for me. This gives you a quick breakdown of what some further details are and if it's a good deal for you or not. So then we just go over the purchase price, what the down payment is. This varies percentage-wise depending on the deal and how it's structured. But this is the down payment. And then the entitlement cost, this is to get it a fully approved and entitled project where we can break ground. And then the development cost, that's to put in all the horizontal infrastructure. So that's roads, sidewalks, sewer, water, all that fun stuff. When we do these underwriting deals too, by the way, we in these costs, we actually also include the financing costs. Most people aren't going to self-finance these deals with their own cash. I know a couple of developers that do all their own cash, and their returns are actually less or their percentage of return, I should say, is less because they're using more cash. Their returns are a little bit bigger, but less cash on cash return. But anyway, these costs factor in your financing costs on the construction. Then this is the total build out for all 9 units with the financing. Then this is your total return when it's all said and done. This is factoring in all financing, all the carry costs, all the purchase costs, all the sales costs, all that fun stuff. Oh, sorry. This is your total cash investment through the whole deal. This is your total return. and then your cash on cash return over the project. And then this annual ROI is that just this number annualized. And then we also kind of give, like, sometimes we do this where we give you another option. I'll get into the deal list here, where if you wanted to keep one as a rental, for example, we show you how you can do that. Sometimes you end up getting a unit for free or very close to free. So yeah, let me just jump into this week's deal. So this is the property we're talking about. So it's 215 East 39th Street. It just came on the market last week. I actually had a different deal that was actually off market last week, that I presented and it sold the same day. So I didn't get a chance to present this one as a deal of the week last week, but it's the deal of the week this week. I'm just going to pull up the location of this one because what's kind of unique about this is that we just last month we had one of our clients closed on this property right here. So he owns this lot. This gentleman in this front lot is also a builder or developer, but I believe he's interested in selling this lot. So potentially we could get this lot as well. And then the only other lot on this street is this one back here, but it's not necessarily a make or break on any kind of development. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is I'm going to cover how cool this could be here in a couple minutes. But this property here is this parcel and this parcel, so it's these two together. It's the same owner. It came on the market last week. There's an existing trailer right here that is rented right now, but they're moving out. I haven't seen the condition of it. I'm assuming it's not great condition. Maybe you can rent it while it's being entitled for, a little bit of money. I wouldn't count on that. I didn't count on that with the numbers, I don't believe. And then what's kind of unique about the property too is there's actually a canal right here. So this abuts a canal. So it's an open canal here. I'm assuming there's no water in there now, but I'm assuming in the spring there's water in it, which is kind of neat. So the site design actually incorporates that as well. So pretty neat location. And then as far as the area of Garden City, so if you're watching this, if you're not familiar with Garden City, there's a whole lot of trailer parks, but it's kind of been overlooked for decades. Garden City has for development, and in the last 15 years, it's really been, it started getting redeveloped, and now it's just going gangbusters on development. So there's developments constantly under construction, and constantly getting entitled and developed. There's one right here. But on the overhead here, so we're literally 2 blocks away from the river. This is the I think it's ACHD site right here that they're actually vacating, I believe, next year, maybe this year. But this is actually going to get all redeveloped as well. So this entire site right here is going to get sold off and redeveloped. I think they're redoing the streets through here. So this is going to be a really cool extension of the big development, which is the Whitewater Park area right here. So this is like the really high-end stuff. There's condos and townhomes selling for, $1 million+ here, or, very close to it. This is where the Whitewater Park is. So there's Whitewater Rapids, I think, here and here, or here and here, something like that. But very cool stuff going on. So this is just a couple blocks away from there. It's on the southeast side of Veterans, so it's on the good side of Veterans. I say good side, but I actually have projects on the other side too, and it's just as good. But this is even just a little bit better location. So, okay, jumping back into the spreadsheet. So we have a projected profit of about 315,000 on cash of 331. So what this is, we have a lender that will lend on land at 60% loan to value. So this is 40% down on the land, and then it's paying for entitlements out of pocket, and then interest expenses through the entitlements. And then after that, once we start construction, your loan to value numbers actually look really good, that you can actually roll the construction loan interest into the loans. So you're not paying that out of pocket. So you can keep your out of pocket cash pretty low on this, considering what it is. So 331,000. And then what we do is, so then you have your total ROI, the anticipated timeline. This is probably might be close to like 3.5 years. Particularly if we do it in like 2 different phases and don't build everything all at once, or at least stagger them. So your annualized ROI. And then when it's all said and done, this is your capital in the deal and this is your total equity. So you lose some of this equity when you sell. So that's why we show this equity where you have almost $1 million in equity, including the cash. But once you sell, you lose some of that. So that's where you get down to the 300,000. Now, again, if you're a realtor and you're listing these, that money goes straight into your pocket on the listing side of it anyway. And then this is what we do, your capital return. So if you wanted to keep one unit, this is the capital return to you after 8 units are sold. And then this is how much you would own that last unit for. So you'd own that last unit, depending on which one it is. I average them out. So depending on what it is, but you're at probably like 20%, 20 to 25% loan to value, depending on which unit, at 98,000 ownership level. So it's a good way to basically buy a house. And then when it's all said and done, get your money back out of it. You can obviously refinance this out. In fact, what I should say too, so this is still your own capital in it, but you could theoretically refinance this property, essentially sell it to yourself or whatever, or do a cash out refinance. So let's say this property is worth 450,000, you could refinance it probably close to 350,000. So you get your last 100,000 back, but then you also get $250,000 back. That's debt. It's not profit. So well, I guess you'd have to talk to your accountant how they look at that, but you're taking debt out on it instead of selling it. So there's some potential additional cost savings there on top of the 100% bonus depreciation as well. So there's a lot of tax advantages here in certain circumstances as well, so that aren't reflected on your profitability. Okay, so we have it underwritten with 9 units. We actually think so. I think this deal is actually it's probably a little overpriced right now. I'm going to cover another deal that is selling for. We think it's going to sell for right around where this one's priced at, and it's almost twice the size. I'm going to cover that next. So this property, I think, it's probably not going to sell for 440. I don't know where it's going to sell at, but I would say, we can talk to the sellers and listing agent and see what kind of deal we can get. But this is probably in the range of where it should sell at. Then you have your entitlement cost per lot, your development cost per lot. So one thing I'll mention, so with infill development, your typical per lot development cost is a lot lower typically than out if you buy a big acreage property out in the middle of nowhere. And the reason why that is because all the utilities and everything are close by. A lot of times there's already roads and sidewalks. So you still have to put in some infrastructure, but it doesn't have to go very far. And it's also very dense development. So your per lot cost a lot of times on this infill development is a lot lower, and your resale prices are typically higher too. So then and again, we're pretty conservative on all this stuff, but if you were to sell the lots, then at that point, once it's developed individually, you could sell the lots. This would be your per lot profit. Ideally, though, you stick through the build because that's where you get the most benefit from the development is to stick through all the way to the build and realize the most profit. So this is the breakdown of the units. If I go over the site plan, yeah, let me stop my share and get to the site plan here. Okay, I zoom in on this. So this is this site. So we actually have on this layout, we actually have 5 detached homes. And then these are actually about, I think, 1,200 to 1,250 square feet. So that's what these are. So they're a little bit smaller, but they can still be 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms. This would be on 3 stories. So you'd have 2-car garages on the first floor, along with the stairs up. These front 3 units would actually have some workspace on the first floor as well. And then you go up to the second floor, which will typically have your living room and kitchen, and then the third floor would be bedrooms typically. So these ones have room for 3 bedrooms, and then the townhomes would be same 3 stories, but 2 bedroom townhomes. And then this is the project that our other client bought, and I think these are all 3 bedrooms. So the nice thing with mixing in some 2 bedrooms and smaller units is you're not in direct competition with these other product. And then I want to show you how this could be, because I actually got excited when this one came for sale, and then already knew that this guy was considering selling. And then I haven't talked to this gentleman yet, but this could actually get done with or without him, but I think it could be a really cool addition. So this lot layout actually fits all the requirements of Garden City for density, parking, um, all that fun stuff. So we could actually and because Xenia is a dead end street, so it's not a through street, we could actually, and it also doesn't even meet the existing uh, public street code. So we would actually probably want to rededicate it as a private street, so we don't have to have quite as wide, but then we could just make like a circular pattern here with a central courtyard here. These would be townhomes facing 39th Street. We still have a couple of homes facing the canal there, and then these back units and side units here would also be there. So 31 total units here. I haven't done any layouts as far as like what sizes, but just played around with the layout, and this is actually pretty functional, and we can maximize the profitability of the whole project. So if you have the cool thing with this too is like it's not one person has to buy this. This can be so we already have this parcel purchased. If somebody buys this one, and then we have 2 other people that want to buy these, or maybe the owners want to partner or whatever. So it could actually be 4 separate owners, and kind of do like a combined development with all that. There's a lot of nuance to that,
Explain
but
again, Zach, you
yeah.
already have one purchase, like you bought it off market or something?
It was on the market, but yeah, one
Oh,
of our clients bought it.
oh, okay. So it's already going with one of your clients. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And which lot was it that you were talking about that you were saying that one was overpriced at 440, but there was another one
Yeah,
um
so this
bigger?
yeah, so this is the lot right here that's for sale. The other parcel that's bigger, I'm going to cover it here next. So it's
Oh,
actually the next street over. It's not part of this development, but it's one street over.
okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to skip ahead.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. This is all meant to be a conversation. I try to blitz through it because sometimes I get long-winded, but yeah. Okay, so we're gonna jump into the other deal. So this was actually my deal of the week back in February, on February 13th. So the other Friday the 13th, go figure. But it was at the time, it was actually still a good deal, I think. At the time, I mean, it wasn't a fantastic deal, but it still made sense at that price, I think, at 600,000. But then they reduced it down to 500,000. And then I actually what's funny about this, so I have a friend that called me about this property because her friend own or at least partially owns this property. And so I kind of I talked to that to the owner, and I don't want to share the whole story. It's kind of a long story, and it's kind of a contentious situation. But anyway, I did call the listing agent and the owner, and there is currently a letter of intent on the property that got submitted yesterday. So I know for sure that this deal is going to sell by the end of the weekend. But I think we can sneak in here. I know what the offer is. I'm not going to share that publicly, but I know what the offer is. And I think this would get it done or very close to get it done. Especially if it can be a clean, cash deal, even if it gets refinanced later. But these numbers are based on a cash deal. Um, I actually have a friend of mine also that's currently traveling, but he's interested in it, so we might end up doing it. But anyway, so this is that deal. Let me pull up the map on it. So it's literally exactly 1 block over. Let me make sure. Yeah, this is the right one. So this is on 40th Street, and it's literally 300 feet away. So this is the property I just showed you, and then this is this one on 40th. So it also rides along the canal here. Um, but basically the same kind of deal. So I don't know. Do I have the? Yeah, I do have the layout pulled up. Maybe. Where is that? Oh, maybe I lost it. Anyway, I have a layout that I did on this. If you look at if you're getting my emails, you can look in the from February 13th. It has this project in there. And then I also, with today's emails, I actually sent this out as well, the updated format of this. So in that email today, you'll actually see the layout. So we have a street going down here, and then townhomes over here. The only thing that I will say, because I didn't realize the canal was right here when I first sent it out and when I sent it out today. So more than likely we can pipe this if we want to, but I think I can revamp this where we actually have the same kind of deal where we have a sidewalk along here, and then the canal actually it starts on the property, but then it kind of goes off the property towards the front about halfway through. So I think we can turn it into like a really cool feature, and still keep the profitability where it needs to be. But that's just something that we'll, if somebody gets it under contract, we'll keep in mind as we go forward with it. But then let me jump into the spreadsheet here again. So yeah, we have a profit of about 800,000. This is if we buy if you buy the property cash. Now, again, it could be technically a cash offer, and we have a lender that'll lend at 60% loan to value on deals like these. So you could use less cash, but that's, factoring in just all cash. And then even with all cash, you still have a huge ROI. So you have an ROI of about 40% there per year. And that's actually even factoring in a little bit longer time to get it developed and built. And then same thing here. So this one actually, if you keep one unit, you actually get paid 370,000 to keep one unit, and then you end up with that last unit for free still. So you get a unit for free, you get paid all your money back, plus you paid your 370,000, and you end up with a unit for free. Or you could basically end up with like half the units probably, at about 75% loan to value, somewhere in there, and keep them as rentals. You wouldn't really cash flow, but you'd basically own rentals at break even with zero cash in it. So that's also a possibility for somebody that's interested in this deal. And again, you can basically get all your capital out at the end, refinance, keep as many as possible. Don't necessarily worry about the cash flow. That'll come with time. But then this shows if you keep one for free, just what the rentals are going for there. We just project on all these deals that we are underwriting now. There's actually a new feature where we're updating the projected cash flow based on the payment. And we updated where we can put in the interest rate. So on these where you're carrying some debt on it, we put in an anticipated interest rate on that. And then so we can kind of play around with that and what that looks like. But then it shows your monthly cash flow and then your expenses if you had it managed. Again, we can play around with those numbers, but this is actually projecting out true cash flow. So what, a lot of people, if you own rentals, if you buy something with 20% down and think you're going to break even, sometimes you end up being negative cash flow because you're not factoring in some of those hidden costs. So we factor in those hidden expenses on these type of deals. The other thing I'll mention too, I bring this up a fair amount, but when you're building new construction, when it's all said and done, everything in that unit is brand new. So your capital expenditures are nowhere near where they are for an existing property. So even if you buy an old property that's in good condition, you're still a lot of times going to have to worry about capital expenditures over time. Your plumbing system is old. A lot of times the systems are old. Sometimes they've been replaced, but you're still dealing with decades old homes. Whereas in new construction, everything is brand new. So you're starting the time clock brand new there. So you typically don't have any capital expenditures aside from maybe like some rental issues for like the first, at least 7 to 10 years. And it's going to be minimal even after the 10 years. Okay, and then we also project this out with short term. So we just use AirDNA, and this is actually what the NOI is projected to be. So this is actually this is also factoring in taxes, insurance, property management, all that fun stuff. So this is what it would cash flow. So some of these are better actually as long-term rentals. The other thing that is not factored into AirDNA is they look at everything in the area. But if you're designing a new construction home as an Airbnb, we can design it in such a way that it's going to be a lot more popular than a lot of other Airbnbs. So typically that means higher rents and lower vacancy. So a lot of these numbers are typically skewed for new construction. But we have a 16 unit layout. And I think that's on 4 different groups. So 4 groups of 4, I believe. Again, your entitlement cost, development cost per lot. This is the layout of those. So we have 9 units at 1,450 square feet, 4 at 1,600, and 3 2 bedrooms at 960 square feet. So a good mix in there again. So the nice thing with infill development too is, we can mix up the unit layout and count. So we're not bringing like, 10 of the same exact floor plan or same exact size of the market at the same time. So even if we did this in, 2 phases, we could essentially advertise 2 or 3 different product at one time. So you have, it fits a larger range of buyers. So we try to design most of our, our multi-unit deals like that where it would fit, a range of people so they sell quicker. Then we have our our construction costs, development costs all in, and then your loan construction. And again, this is the construction loan. It should be less than this. Usually we shoot for 10 to 20% less than this, but again, we just try to be conservative. So ideally, when it's all said and done, your profit is even better. And then we also factor in the sales cost with that as well. Okay, any questions on this deal? Let me pull up the snapshot of it. I forgot I had this right here. So this got resent out today in your email. So this is that street right here. I would actually rework this. We could actually keep the same functionality and probably the same unit count by just reworking it a little bit, to be able to keep that canal right there. But yeah, essentially we have a group of 6 right here, a group of 4, and then a group of 6. We'd probably reverse that somehow, but yeah, that has all your parking and open space requirements. And then yeah, I think your 1,450 square feet are these ones up here. So this shows the what we estimate we could get the purchase price at, and then all the details of that. So this is what I sent out today. So if you haven't seen that in your email, definitely check your email. If you didn't get the email, shoot me a message. Okay, so those are the 2 big ones today. There's another one that came on the market this morning, or maybe it was late. I think I saw it late last night. This is an interesting one too. It's actually a decent return, but it's like not as good as these. What's interesting about this one, I think I have this up. So there's a like a 6-plex here already. That lot is actually back here. So it's back behind this. This is a new construction. This got finished maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. And I think it's all one 6-plex. Yeah, I think it's all on one parcel. So it actually has an easement for this driveway. So you already have, and more than likely the sewer and water is already right here. So there's not a lot of expense like it's going to be already right there. But we could add possibly up to 8 townhomes. It would be tight to be able to get 8 and still fit in parking. It's probably possible, but it'd be a little tight. So 7, I think, is a better layout. We could also probably do 4 detached single family homes. I haven't written that. I probably will for this sits on the market for a little bit, because it could potentially be a good for detached single family as well. Typically on detached single family, your profit margin is higher. Typically, the build costs are a little bit higher, but your resale cost is higher too. So this could be good for that. I'll have to look at it. But it's not as good as these other 2 deals. So if you have somebody that's interested in, a Garden City deal, this takes less cash and it's more profitable. This could take a little bit less cash. Like if I do this with that same, this could take as little as 250,000. Well, actually be about 100,000 more than that because there's some interest costs that get added to that too. But for about this same price, you could basically more than double your profits on this deal. So out of anything on this list, this is the deal that needs to get sold first. Again, I have a buddy of mine that might actually buy it. And I know either way, it's probably going to get sold this weekend because he has that LOI. And then I wanted to cover subdivisions. There weren't really any other new like spectacular deals, but I do just want to cover really quick. We still have this deal that's been on the market. It had a $15,000 price, or I think $30,000 price reduction this week, or something like that. But it's down below 900,000. I think it was 925. And again, this is a $500,000 profit, takes about a 500,000 in capital, potentially less if somebody gets creative, but this is kind of a cool deal where we could build five kind of more luxury, larger homes on this property, and you profit over 100,000 on each one of those homes. Um, and then there's also, so this is the deal that that is pending as of last. This is my deal of the week last week that got sold that same day. So that's pending. That's going to be a cool little deal.
Is
And
that
then this
still on
one,
your, are you doing that deal?
uh,
You,
s- well, it's one of my deal list clients bought it, so
okay,
I'm doing
well,
it
good,
for him.
good.
But I actually have another one that's similar to it that I might actually partner with the homeowner. So we're trying to work out those details where it's very similar to that one where we can actually do. So this one on that was last week, the Latah deal.
Mhm.
Um, so I got this under contract, and then I started like kind of diving into it deeper, and found out that, well, I kind of already knew, but like I actually did the layout. Um, that we could do a cottage community, and the profitability, so we can basically get like double the units, and the profitability is about double or close to double. I have to look at it. I don't remember off the top of my head, um, but pretty sweet. We can get potentially maybe like 24 units in there. There's some challenges obviously with every development, but we'll work through those in the coming weeks.
Cool.
And then this hillside deal, this is still on the market as of last night when I checked. This is another $1 million home. We can split off two lots off the back, and again, kind of do a higher end product that each unit then has some good profitability. So each unit on this one it profits about 175,000. And then the existing house you kind of lose money on just because it's so expensive. So you like we underwrote this. If you rent it out, obviously you're gonna have some losses on the difference between your payment and rent, but then also like when you go to resell it, unless prices go up. We don't usually count on that, the prices going up, so we don't underwrite that. But if the prices go up by 10% in 2 years, then you're fine. But that's essentially where you lose a little bit of money is on the resale if you resell for the same price. Okay. I think that's all the deals I was going to cover. Mainly these two Garden City deals. This one obviously for the price and size and opportunity there. And then if that one sells, then this one, I think this one could actually end up being a lot better too, because ultimately, if we can get all four of those properties developed at the same time, I think these prices go, and again, we're being conservative anyway, but I think these prices are even better. And then um, your development costs and build costs will actually go down a little bit too, because you do have some efficiencies there. Okay. I think that's it. Anybody have any other questions? I'm going to stop my recording here.